Thank you folks for all making it. Got a few more folks who are signing up. Find the seat.
So, good afternoon and welcome to the Spencer Creek Grange. My name is Mike Gamer, and on behalf of the Grange, we would like to welcome you. We're happy to host these events as part of our community service program. And if you want to learn anything more about the Grange itself, or perhaps consider becoming a member, see myself. There's several other Granges in the room, and you probably won't know who they are, but you'll probably notice them. Raise your hand if you're a Granger. All right. So I'd like to introduce, Malcolm has a few words to say. Are you still here, Malcolm? Sure. And then Jim Evangelista and Chuck Herrera.
I just want to say the search you see back there, today we're supposed to have the Langford and Grange scholarship dinner, private dinner down at Grange, and it was canceled because of the weather. Here it's nice, but it's not so nice down there. My wife was the one that basically was providing the desserts. So we got the desserts today. That's basically why the desserts are back there. So have some. Another issue, just for information, that I'm also a member of the Good Citizens Church down here, and we've attended some issues with the dogs leaving their deposits around. Those people that walk their dogs around, that basically pick up after yourself, they pick up pretty much, the children play down there, when they take those people on Flowers Road and the rest of Macbeth Road, that walk their dogs to pick up after them. Appreciate that. Thank you. But go ahead and eat those. If you don't eat them, I have to eat them myself later.
Thank you, Malcolm. Well, again, thank you all, neighbors, for making it here today. Who would have thought that so many folks were concerned and interested in internet? Well, my name is Jim Evangelista, and again, I do welcome you all and appreciate the participation and the response. We have the sign-in sheet for folks that want to ask questions and want to participate, and we're going to try and keep it to a schedule. Of course, we want to give everybody the opportunity to answer have their questions answered, to ask them, and to share their opinions. So I think we'll be pushing the edge a little bit, but we'll do everything we can to accommodate everybody. I want to acknowledge Heather Buck, our recently seated county commissioner, a neighbor here. Because I didn't have a chance to find everybody, I know that June Chada from Senator Wyden's office sent her apologies. She was not able to make it, family issue that had come up. But she sent some information, and I know there's another representative here who has some information from her, and I think she also shared that with Terry. Is Josh Lorente here? Okay, and so Courtney here will be speaking for Senator Merkley's office. And Matt Sayer? Matt, thank you so much, okay? And Debbie Wilson. Debbie, thank you so much, from Lane Electrical Cooperative. She's the general manager. Has everyone had a chance to grab an agenda? Okay. Okay, we probably have run out. And that's, I hate to say it, but that's a good thing, because that shows the response and the participation for everybody. But I will turn this over to Chuck, and we'll keep everybody timely and keep moving through. Does anybody initially have a question or a concern that they want to share at the head? Okay. Well, Chuck?
Yeah, let me get the sign-in sheet and we'll start there.
I woke up this morning and saw the snow gently coming down on our windows and said, okay, this is perfect. It's going to be a beautiful day. Thank you. And we also, from Reality Kitchen, we brought some desserts and treats as well to share. And they're back in the back. We have coffee and juice. There is some gluten-free items as well, if anybody would prefer that. And I'll hand it over to Chuck.
Thank you. So then when we had this idea about getting together, we didn't know whether we would have 5 people or 50. And I think we probably have, I don't know, maybe 100. We'll find out. So that's the reason for the sign-up sheet, is to at least give people that want to have a short, and I have to say short because there are a lot of us here, comment, introduction about where they live, what their experience has been with or without internet. And this isn't meant to be a gripe session. It's meant to be a sharing of information, because I was just talking to somebody. We have a real hodgepodge of internet availability, or the lack thereof, in this general area. We're a forgotten part of Lane County, we like to say. So the intention of this, for the people that wanted to speak, if you'll just share your name, maybe where you live, and a little bit about what your experience has been. Jim, I noticed you're on here. You want to speak. We'll come to that later. The first one was Stephen. Steve represents XS Media, and you want to make yourself available later on to talk to people. Stand up, Steve, so people know who you are. He is an ISP provider, and I think there are others in the room. Our thought was that after we have our general meeting, that if people want to kind of split off, say, yeah, I wanted to talk to that guy, that sounded interesting, that we'll do that. So go ahead, Stephen.
Okay, so I'm Steven with XS Media. We're a local high-speed internet provider. I live on Lorraine Highway, so I'm a member of this community. My dad started this company because Junction City didn't have high-speed internet, and we grew from there. And our focus, our niche, has been serving the unserved and underserved. We have a couple of locations in the area. We're on Blaine Heights. We're also on some rooftops. We're over at Sweet Sheets and Crow and Lorraine and other places. And I would say in this general area, we serve about 150 households, so it's quite a few. But there are challenging areas. I know the terrain well. And so one of the issues is trying to expand and get better coverage. And it's something that we are passionate about. It's our DNA. And we would love to help if we can. It's really, I mean, everybody in our company believes in a community-minded mission. It's what we were born to do. It's what we love doing, and we want to help. So I'm encouraged to see all of you here. So thank you.
Just for clarification, Steve is representing the wireless community. Is that proper to say, or do you?
We offer wired and wireless services.
Okay, wired and wireless. Okay. That'll be a big part of the discussion because we have a real mix out here. Okay, the next one, I'm not sure, Stuart Burlemaker, is that right? Did you want to speak?
Sure.
Okay, it's right on the split of the line here.
Oh.
Use that one. Yeah, please.
So should I go ahead now?
Yeah, you can use the mic if you want to.
No, I'm fine.
Okay.
As a teacher, I'm used to yelling.
Well, please stand up.
Okay.
If you don't mind.
So I live on, actually, we were asked to put our pin, but we're off the chart. We're on Peaceful Valley, which is not represented on this map here. And I do know, I've done a count, above our mailbox, there are 40 other residences just up the road from us and many more down below. So I've been in the country now for 10 years. We moved out here, and possibly the biggest frustration is the lack of internet. I run a small business. I'm a furniture builder. Almost every aspect of a business is now internet-based. Advertising, web, output, payroll, billing if you're a bigger storage, any kind of storage. It hampers my ability to do my business. Second, video conferencing. I know for many people, it's a way for families to stay connected. We can't do that with families that are, I have to go sit in my car with my computer and steal someone else's internet in town and do a video conference, or go to the school district where I used to work and use that. So being able to interact with clients and family members, it's impossible to do without the internet. Education, as a teacher, there are a number of aspects that are successful for students, and rural students are put at a significant disadvantage. Urban students have access to high-speed internet. They can do research. They can go online and check their grades and check homework assignments. Parents can maintain, can check in and see their students' attendance record. Everything has moved to the internet. And for rural students, they don't have that advantage anymore. They're at a significant disadvantage. And I know it by neighbors of mine who have commented on it. Property, even the sale of property. We have friends of ours who have lost 2 sales on their house because people now want to work from home, and if you don't have high-speed internet where you can work and video conference with other employees or your clients, you can't buy a house out here. It's impossible to do. We have known several people who live out here who want to do Airbnb. Well, that works great for the country, but one of the first criterion that people who want to rent at an Airbnb is they want internet access to explore their neighborhoods and the area around them. We can't do that. Homes. Everyone talks about, all my urban friends have smart speakers and smart appliances. We have lots of dumb appliances at our house. We can't upgrade because we don't have reliable Wi-Fi, and we have had satellite before, I will say that, but there are limits to it. Data caps, upload speeds are ridiculous. They're affected by weather, and it's not very cost effective. Streaming content, we have to actually get those things called DVDs. You remember you know what they are? They're round, they have a hole in them. Well, we don't have access to any streaming, and I'm not talking just entertainment, news content, stuff on YouTube for learning how to do new stuff. None of that is available to us in a rural community. And finally, computer maintenance and file storage. You can't do any of that without a high-speed internet. So those are the disadvantages that we have out here, and I'd like to see some positive resolution to this issue.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you. You know, what Stephen is touching on is what everyone has, yes, what everyone is going to be able to echo here. What I'd like to do is return to the agenda and invite Heather to come up and speak first, and then was it Mallory? I'm sorry. Courtney, rather. Courtney to speak afterwards. Thank you.
Can I mention that there's a couple of empty seats up here, if people want to sit down?
Yeah, please do. There's seats up front here.
Hello, everybody. My name is Heather Buck. I am your new Lane County Commissioner and neighbor. So I live just up the street, so I completely understand all the reasons that Stuart so eloquently described as to why you are all here. I feel that issue myself, and I have never seen so many people at Grange before. This is wonderful. For those of you that haven't never attended here, welcome. I am really impressed with all the folks in our little community here to put together a forum like this on such a much needed issue. Throughout my election cycle, it was the same thing all over my district, because it's largely rural. They're all feeling the same issue that you have here. And this is a great way to kick off my start as your county commissioner, and also the issue that I hope that we'll have many discussions in other areas of the district as well. And just so proud of our local leaders here who are putting this on and bringing this issue to the forefront. Yes, thank And you. Thank you. It is one of the big issues I want to work on, and I'm not going to take a lot of time because the people you really want to hear from are up next. And they're the ones that know and can describe where we're at now and where we can go in the future. And I will be supporting you as neighbors. I will support their efforts as much as possible as well in continuing to move this to the forefront, because it's much needed and it's hard to live our daily lives without internet these days. It's just not possible. And I want to be able to help everybody be as connected as possible as well. So with that, I'm going to just transfer it over to Courtney with Senator Merkley's office.
Hi, thank you all for being here today. I've not been here before, so this is quite a treat, and I'm also very impressed by the turnout. I'm going to keep my comments really brief because I am here primarily to listen and to learn from all of you to see how we can help address this issue. But I do want to put a plug out there for one program. It's called the USDA Reconnect program. It's brand new, $600 million investment by the federal government. They've actually pushed the first application deadline back to May 31st following the government shutdown, so there's some more time to get your applications in order, so I think it's a really timely conversation to be having right now. As I said, $600 million, some of it's grants, some of it's loans, and some of it is in combination, and it's open to lots of different entities to apply. So telecommunication companies, rural electric co-ops, utilities, ISPs, municipalities, and other levels of local government, nonprofits. So hopefully that there are many people in the room today who might have an interest in taking up this charge and potentially getting some federal dollars to help address this issue. There are lots of details. I'm not going to run through them all. I'm happy to share more information, and hopefully that can be shared with the group. I share it with Jim or others. I can also try to answer your questions, and that might also be a great resource to answer more of your technical questions. And the other thing I just wanted to mention in closing is that there is a webinar on February 13th about this program. So if you want to learn more, I'm actually going to participate myself February 13th.
We can't watch webinars.
Yeah, that's actually to seek internet access outside of your home or elsewhere. Yeah, that's a really great point. But there is a webinar and other technical assistance and resources available from USDA to help put those applications together. So hopefully it's potentially one piece of the puzzle that we might be able to help with as you all look forward and try to address this issue. And I'm also really interested, I hear this all over my territory, which is all of Lynn, Benton, and Lane counties. Access to the internet and broadband is something I hear in many, many communities. It's something I'm interested in. I grew up in Hardin County, so I know what it's like to live in a rural community. And just know that we're here to listen and learn, and please feel free to share any feedback. Do you want me to?
Does anybody have a question of Courtney at this moment?
I do. Isn't Senator Murphy working on something with the Appropriations Committee about something about rural internet as well?
Yeah, that's actually where the $600 million came from. So he's the ranking member on the Agricultural Subcommittee of the Appropriations Committee. So this $600 million came out a couple of years ago as we budget for the year ahead. So the $600 million was through his advocacy in that Appropriations Committee. I think the additional funding that came through last fiscal year was somewhere in the range of $420 million. So it's something we want to continue to invest in, but I'm really interested in how we can take that money that's available and actually get it here on the ground where it's going to be useful. So trying to connect those dots.
It's my understanding that CenturyLink, our wonderful provider here, receives money to support rural internet, but they don't do it, or at least they ignore us. And I was wondering why they ignore us, or how you can put pressure on them not to ignore us. Because I've tried and they just...
Yeah. No, that's a great question, and actually something that I've heard from other people, and I'm...
Can you repeat the question? I can't hear everything back there.
Yeah, so if I can try to summarize, or if you want to repeat.
I'll repeat it. CenturyLink receives money to provide rural internet high-speed connections, but they choose where they want to do it, and they choose not to do it for us. So my question was, what can our government representatives do to make CenturyLink make good on their commitment to provide it?
Yeah, I will just say at this point in time, I've heard that concern elsewhere, and I've actually had conversations with Austin from Lane County and others about bringing together people in rural communities and ISPs in rural communities to talk about this and other issues that they've encountered with federal money that's come beforehand, like with the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act in 2009, there were federal dollars that lots of big players got, and then they didn't actually do what they said they were going to do and actually bring internet to the places that need it. So it's one of several issues that I've heard about, and I'm in the process of bringing together our team, our policy staff from DC, and then our appropriations committee staff to talk about how we can actually make the rules fair so the money gets to where it needs to be on the ground. So great feedback and something that I definitely will keep talking about.
One other question here.
Yeah, when you're talking about this USDA reconnect money, that's not for households, I take it, to apply for. It's for groups.
Yes, lots of different groups. So it could be an ISP, a service provider, it could be an electrical cooperative, it could be a nonprofit. So how their application looks and how they actually plan to disperse it, I don't know if they could potentially set up a program, I would assume, where households could apply. That would just depend on the nature of the application, but yeah. Thank you.
I have one more question that's hitting the heads. That gentleman over there, he spoke about.
Could you stand, please?
Talk about CenturyLink. So has any representative CenturyLink showed up at this meeting?
Or Comcast.
Or ex-Dignity.
Either one, huh?
So I'm an ex-Comcast. I was previously director of finance for Comcast.
Oh, perfect.
Integrally involved in making decisions like this about what gets funded.
Could you speak up?
Sure. And one of the things, I'll just speak louder. One of the things I recognize is a lot of the funding that we see in the public really doesn't end up helping kind of a company like Comcast or CenturyLink. So I think one of the things that I'm thinking about is the advocacy really needs to come from the grassroots. I mean, companies need to make a profit, and I think we need to recognize that. And it is economical if you look at specific neighborhoods in proximity to plant. So I think there's some things to consider when you're thinking about public partnership, private partnership. And we can certainly I can certainly help in terms of advocating with the organization. I can't speak anymore on the Comcast behalf, but I can certainly assist with contacts and kind of mechanics of how the financials work and how it might be effective for Cheeseman, for example, or Savrud, who's close to Plant. All of those, you know, if you looked at the mechanics of how far it is from existing Plant, you need a commitment of subscribers, and it's fairly small. You know, for example, Cheeseman is probably 15 committed customers that want good broadband and robust service. So, I mean, it's doable. It's definitely doable. So I think there's a niche here for public-private partnership, help from the Lane County Franchise Authority in terms of potentially assisting with, you know, potentially franchise fees, any abatement that might occur, and also utilities. I mean, I think it's a consortium of people that will eventually solve this. And very few government agencies have been successful at driving the resolution because of the commitment to capital management, expertise, etc. So I think one of the avenues to think about is really how can we bring together private-public partnership in the work. So that's just a few comments.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Could I ask you to repeat your name again, please?
Dave Yordi.
Dave Yordi.
Sure.
Did you sign up?
Absolutely.
Did you sign up?
I have not signed in. I got a name tag without that.
I would appreciate
Yeah,
that. Thank you.
absolutely.
Thanks, Dave.
Can I jump on that just for a second on Comcast?
Sure.
Yeah.
Comcast did a study down Bailey Hill,
Yeah.
and it was left in accounting because it didn't fit the pro forma.
Right.
We asked for cost share, wouldn't share it. We were willing to throw some dollars at it,
Yeah.
but nothing. Same with CenturyLink, and we invited both Comcast and CenturyLink to come and explain
Yeah.
why. There's more than 21 households in our neighborhood down Bailey Hill that are interested in this. But it gets caught up in the finance side of
Yeah,
things.
I think the financial example I gave you is pretty typical of how we look at things.
But everybody knows that Twin Oaks has fiber optic that they've paid for to get down there. And unless I'm wrong, you can peel off a fiber optic and fund or share some.
Well, some of the schools are funded via institutional networks.
Sure,
There's
sure.
agreements with the Lane County franchise in terms of funding the institutional network. So a lot of the schools are funded through something called an INET, which is an institute, and that's basically, they pay a nominal fee, and part of the commitment to doing the franchise is to develop that.
Comcast is holding permits right now, though, for all of us down Bailey Hill to the loop and a few houses past.
See, that isn't relatively far, and I think it's a matter.
It's gone through the state, they came back and said they're holding the full well permits when they sent the subcontractor out for the study.
Juggling resources even within Comcast, right? Comcast doesn't have, in Oregon, didn't have unlimited capital resources, but generally, when you're looking at subscriber capital, and growth capital, there's a much better opportunity to kind of develop than there is when there's not subscriber growth capital. So if you're just trying to.
Thank you, Dave.
Yep.
Dave, and if I could ask anyone who's going to participate and speak, could you please stand up, identify yourself, and please speak loudly. Dave will follow up. I will say one thing real quick, that one of the biggest challenges we're going to have in follow-up is the irony that we all are going to need to access internet to communicate with each other in one way or another. That's why we have the sign-up sheet for phone and whatever email access anybody has. We have created a Facebook group that more information can be shared, and we're going to continue following up. The group is the Spencer Creek Grange Neighborhood Internet Access Group on Facebook, okay? Yeah, all you have to do is type in Spencer Creek and it'll pop right up. I'll have to apologize about having to go through Facebook to do that, but it's accessible when you have internet. And could you identify yourself, please?
Brooks McIntyre.
Brooke?
Yeah.
And Brooks?
Brooks, yes. We invited Jason McDonald with Comcast down. We've been communicating as much as he'll accept our phone messages and emails. Joan from CenturyLink as well. She was going to get a regional manager down here. Don't know if that's occurred. Don't know if anybody wants to identify themselves. But we've been pursuing this. In fact, we've even gone to the Oregon Public Utilities Commission, but low volt is not regulated service through the commission. So by complaining and giving them all the facts, they really can't do much about it.
I also want to acknowledge, thank you, Brooks. I also want to acknowledge CTV 29. Another part of this entire experience is that this is going to be rebroadcast. We will have it available so that it can be shown otherwise, but we want to gather as much of the factual information as we can, disseminate it out, and keep it available to not only our group, but to others.
Yeah, so Stephen with Access Media, I want to say that kind of project is something that is a no-brainer for someone like us. I mean, no offense to Comcast, but the economics are just different. Every dollar that is given to a company like us stays in this community because we live and work here. And we're much more interested in a project like that. We're very interested in a project like that. So I would encourage anybody who's got a neighborhood or a coalition like that to reach out to us. We did a project that was off of Gimple Hill Road where we had 4 customers reach out to us. And they said they wanted service and we did it. We've done another project where 2 customers asked us for service and we found a way to get them service over by Lowell. So we will do that sort of thing if we can make it work.
Significant speeds?
Yes, and the other thing is we are registered with the Oregon Public Utility Commission. We have the ability to lease fiber from eWeb and others. The fiber you're referencing there's some nuanced challenges. I'm happy to talk to you about that, but this is exactly the kind of thing that we're interested in. And I know there's another provider in the room, and I'm sure they are too, for the record.
I know I called XS Media and asked whether or not my property, literally a quarter mile up Macbeth, would qualify, and they said I did not have line of sight.
That's true.
And that was it. So then I ended up speaking to Noli, and he said that if people up Savara Road, you can get line of sight, and then people can, then they can get a free internet and get a dish that can broadcast, that we can piggyback on that. We can pick it up. So, there's lots of options out there without having to go through Comcast or CenturyLink, although they might be options, but there's other options as well. Did anybody show up here from peak.org? I invited Rodney from peak.org. No, okay. But they also do rural internet and string fiber optics, so that's another option as well.
Thank you, thank you. I'm gonna, if you could hold that for just a moment, please. I'm gonna ask Matt Sayer to come on up and speak. He's gonna have quite a bit of information for us. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Matt Sayer from the Technology Association of Oregon. We're a trade association of tech companies. I live in Springfield, I'm a 5th generation Oregonian. About 4 years ago, I was in a much smaller room with far fewer people talking about this exact same subject, primarily from a commercial perspective, similar challenges. Couldn't get high-speed internet, and if you could, it was far too expensive. So what we did was came together as a community, partnered with the county, Lane Council of Governments, the city of Eugene, and the utility in Eugene, eWeb. And we did a pilot. We did a pilot together. And so what that pilot looked like was connecting a handful of buildings to a centralized facility in downtown Eugene on Willamette Street. And there's different flavors of internet. So what I mean by that is like different models. The traditional model for providers like Comcast and providers like CenturyLink is where they own the physical infrastructure, right? They own the copper that comes to your house, or they own the coax, and they provide the service over the top of it. You don't really distinguish between the two. It's all like, it's just Comcast or it's just CenturyLink. But there are different flavors, different models. And so the model that we piloted in downtown Eugene is called open access. So the way it works is that the public owns the infrastructure. They own the fiber optic cabling. A good reference point for that would be like the highway or the airport. So the public owns I-5. You have companies like UPS and FedEx and customers like us, and we get to choose who we want to go with. We get to choose based on service, we get to choose based on price, and in those competitive markets, prices are competitive and service is pretty good. And so it can work like that for internet, and it does work like that now in the majority of Eugene, especially in the downtown core. So a little bit about the pilot. The public owns the underlying fiber optic infrastructure, and then the ISPs are invited to participate over the top. So they lease the fiber, they pay the utility, and that's how the public gets paid back for the initial investment. And so companies like Stevens and Excess Media, they pay to lease the fiber, and then they're the ones that provide the service over the top. And when you have an environment where there's more than one provider, prices for internet fall and speeds increase. And so what we have now over there is $59 residential gigabit. So it's 1 gigabit down, it's 1 gigabit up. There are no data caps. There's no contracts. There's no funny business like that. All those things go away because if the ISP does those types of things, customers don't like it and they can easily switch. So it's called open access. And so based on the success of the pilot, we were able to expand the project. We got funding from the EDA. The county made a significant investment. The city of Eugene was a great partner. The utility and EWA was a great partner. And we expanded to 125 buildings. And somebody was like, well, that's great for downtown Eugene, but what about us? Like, you know, we're out here. So the reality is that investment needed to take place so that those economics could get closer to here. So as a result of that investment in downtown Eugene, every school in the Eugene 4J school district now has world-class internet at prices that are about half of what they were just 2 years ago. So prices for all of our schools fell by half, and the prices during the same time increased by 1,000%. So those types of things are very possible when people come together. What I would tell you is, someone mentioned Twin Oaks, and so that open access fiber that the public already owns is there, right? And I chatted with my friends at EWEB, which we meet every single week, and so and this is super like summarized version, but you find dollars from the USDA or another entity to do that last mile infrastructure, to get it from Twin Oaks over here, and then all those ISPs that traditionally participate on that network, you'll have a choice, just like Eugene has a choice downtown. And you'll get to pick your provider, and they'll compete for your business, and prices will fall and speeds will increase. So it is possible. Cities around America are now actually looking to Eugene as a reference on like how to do it. We had a team fly up from Santa Clarita, California, and meet with all of the stakeholders to track. I'm often invited down to Kansas City, and we're down to Austin, sort of tell about how we figured it out. Maybe I'll just leave it with that and answer questions.
Is there a website that we can look at this?
Yeah, it's eugnet.org. So, EUG like Eugene, and then net.org. So again, I don't work for an ISP, I just know how the economics and the network engineering work. Excess Media is a member of my association, as is Douglas Fastnet, as is Peak, as is Comcast. So, what else would I tell you? Yeah, hit me.
I guess
I'm just curious, so then how does a community organize to advocate for the formation of that? I'm just a person in my home. How do I jump on the grid?
Well, this is a pretty fantastic first start. But there's 10 times more people here than the first meeting I went to. You have, a county commissioner who already said she's willing to support this conversation. Like, that is a fantastic start. You have support from federal delegates in terms of access to funding that could extend that Twin Oaks open access fiber to this region. And maybe I would add that so these investments have already provided solutions for West Fur, pretty similar to this. And so what the ISP, one of the ISPs did out there was you go out to the endpoint of the public access fiber, and then you do wireless solutions. So the whole city or community of West Fur has broadband speeds at very affordable prices based on that investment that the counties and the city has already done. So it works that way in West Fur. Also, Oak Ridge has public fiber and private sector ISPs competing for customers out there as well. So there's lots of reference points in rural communities. Pitney.
What's the physical infrastructure of this? You mentioned wireless. Do you actually string fiber optics? I mean, what is the basic element that has to be put into place to access everything you've been talking about?
Sure. So in the project that we did downtown, we typically did 12 pair of fiber optics to each individual building. The reason that we did that is to ensure that for any given building, multiple providers could be there, so there's always competition.
You strung that on existing poles that went under?
Yeah, in downtown, we used the existing electrical conduit so that we didn't have to dig up the streets. So that's an option there. Here, you could do it on poles. You could do something called micro trenching, so you could do it right down the road and then they cover it up. That's what Google does now. You can do it in the right-of-way, dig a ditch. So there are lots of ways to do it. There are companies that specialize in fiber optic extension. So this is Lane Electric's territories, that's right. Those guys, like, there's an ingredient. So it's like the utility provider typically is the one where the infrastructure sits. And the government, what they're good at is making investments in infrastructure, things like highways and whatnot. So you put them in that position, and then you enable the private sector to do what they're good at, which is competing, innovating, and in competitive markets providing good service. So to answer your question, there are 10 different ways it can be done. Often it is strung on poles, often it is trenched, often it is micro-trenched, often it is extended, and then people do wireless from that last point where the fiber optics end.
So nothing happens till that's in place. So
well, Stephen shared a solution that isn't an option for everyone because of that line of sight requirement, but yeah, that's where if I'm you and I'm out here, I focus on extension of the Twin Oaks because the economics are right there, and so if you move that infrastructure and those economics just a little bit closer over here, you guys will have a lot more options. Yes?
So, 20 years ago when they changed the turn down the right highway and they blew up that mountain, didn't they run fiber optics all the way down the right highway with AT&T?
yeah.
So here's the other thing. So not all fiber is created equal. Fiber that I'm talking about, the 1,200 miles that the public already owns, it's like 55 miles are sub-fiber, Springfield Utility Board. I want to say 155 miles, it's UWeb. Lane Council of Governments has like 800 miles. I'm talking about assets that the public owns. You're talking about something that CenturyLink owns. There's a potential to lease that, but historically, usually they want to protect their market, which if I'm them, maybe that's what I want to do. So that isn't it isn't publicly available.
Was it possible to put a tower at Twin Oaks?
What do you think, Stephen?
You said like wireless after that from a point like in West Fur, you put a tower at Twin Oaks, you have fiber optics right to it.
If I can say a word, so I am late by, and some of you know me through the community. I started a company that began as a way to get internet to our home and offices up off of Gimble Hill. And from there, we kind of expanded to our neighbors that are out. And with Lorraine Highway, we actually do have an access point at one of the neighbors that has the big grain building up there. So we have different options similar to Access Media throughout the valleys where you can get line of sight to different places. And especially with fiber, it does open up more options, like Matt was saying, to start from different places. And stringing fibers on utility poles is really not, it is a big project in itself, but it's very reasonable and doable. So anyway, that was, we do have the ability to go wireless from fiber.
Yeah, for where the locations or the route of your current open access cable that goes to Twin Oaks, if somebody lives along the route of that cable, do you know if they could get immediate access now to one of the ISPs? That, if they can, it could serve a lot of the.
So yeah, the catch with that is to do a lateral, you gotta splice in. I think that UWeb's flavor, they call it fusion splicing. It's not inexpensive. That's probably why it's not done more readily, but it can be done, and you can get a quote from UWeb. And once you have it, right, it's like having a paved driveway. It's pretty much always there, and then you can use it however you want. So there is a one-time construction fee. And that money would go to UWeb as a utility.
Do you have an estimate on how much that would be being expensive? Just to do it?
It probably wouldn't be appropriate for me to like quote UWeb. So I used to work there, but it's
a lot.
It's a lot.
One time we looked at level 3, who had some fiber over the EPUD, not EPUD, big vehicles. And they quoted about 30 grand just for lines. But that again is a one-time cost, and then from there you build out the rest of your network, and it's either depending on who's paying for it or public.
Yeah, so there's different ways to capitalize it. What I've seen in different markets is, so you have, like, yes, you can get $59 gigabit, but then there's that, like, well, how do you pay for the 30,000? Sometimes an ISP is willing to amortize it, so you pay your $59 a month, and then you pay $50 more over, you know, X number of years to pay off that initial construction, and once the construction's paid for, then it goes down to $59. So that is one way you can capitalize it in a public-private partnership sort of model.
But then it's owned by the ISP.
So in the recipe that I've seen successful, the public owns the infrastructure, and so once it's in place, it's just like a road, and you can be like, well, today I'm going to use UPS, and it's something, you know, you don't have a good experience, and you're like, I'm going to switch providers. You can do that because you have that infrastructure in place.
I'm a little confused.
Could you stand, please?
About 8 years ago, CenturyLink upgraded the line a little further down on Lorraine Highway. I live off of about 6 miles further out. And we have DSL. It's not the world's fastest, and it's not the world's most reliable, and it's certainly not the world's cheapest, but it works, and it was faster than the satellite dish from Hughes. So why some areas get DSL and some areas don't?
Yeah, so I think there are lots of variables. In the case of wireless, there's the line of sight constraint. With DSL as a technology, it's distance based. So sometimes, depending on how far you are from the central office, that dictates your speed and service availability. So for you, it sounds like you're in a great little spot. For a lot of the folks, and probably the reason they're here is they're not happy with what they have.
We're further out than the Grange.
Yeah.
I can answer that really quick. So there are field connection points. So if you think of the copper as a spider web, it comes back to certain points. Eventually it all funnels back to downtown Eugene.
Sure.
But CenturyLink puts in, it's called a DSLAM, that's what feeds DSL. So that DSLAM lives at certain field connection points, but not at others. So CenturyLink has made a strategic decision to put DSLAMs in certain locations and not in others. And so some people may get 1.5 even though they're closer or further away. It's the closer and further away is to that DSLAM and that field connection point. So Access Media is part of the Oregon Public Utilities Commission. We're registered, so we have access to those maps. We can see where those DSLAMs are and where those field connection points are. But does that answer your question? So you probably just happen to be closer to wherever their DSLAM is.
Well, we're further out, and my understanding is that was a federal initiative to give out lots of money for rural internet. I know other people around Lane County who also benefited at the same time. And CenturyLink is practically a regulated monopoly, and they get a huge amount of benefit from this. They wiped out Quest. If anyone remembers Quest, because Quest said, no, you need a warrant for our computer, and they threw the CEO in jail and got rid of Quest.
Well, so an example is, so we were just talking about this, Fox Hollow. So there's a DSLAM at Macbeth and Fox Hollow, but there is not one at Willamette and Fox Hollow. So even though you're further away from town, everybody who's closer to town is actually fed from further away. It's kind of weird how that works.
What would it take for CenturyLink to add a few more of these boxes throughout the area?
That's not
I'm not asking.
So I think that's where the county can help you. That's where Commissioner Buck can help you in that advocacy effort with the telcos. So you have willing partners here who are willing to support you. You already elected them, so they're here to help.
Thank you, Matt. You know, what seems to me is one of the challenges we're facing is the more questions we're asking, the more questions we're going to want to ask. And again, disseminating this information. We're fortunate, Lisa Levson is here today, and she's taking notes. The sign-in sheets that you've signed have your contact information back. We're going to be taking the notes and names from this event and disseminating it and putting it up on the Facebook page. And this is going to be an ongoing conversation. So anyone who can continue and be patient and participate, we're going to all see results together. And I think that's probably the only effective way we can go forward. I'm going to take another question or two, and then I'm going to ask for Debbie to make some comments here.
Can we put the Facebook page up
Yes,
on
I will.
the blackboard?
I will write it up. Thank you.
My name's Jim Kinnebrew, and I live on a spur that goes off of Apple Tree Drive. And we were facing the very same problem I think all of you are facing, and that is, how can we get reliable service? And in our case, we found line of sight through Lane 5's efforts. And then once that happened, and it's very reliable service, it's fast, and he's very responsive, his company is. And once we got there, we realized that there were a lot of neighbors that we've got that would like Wi-Fi or fiber optic. And so I'm in the same position you are. I'm starting to contact neighbors and saying, what would you be willing to do to allow us to get fiber optic into this neighborhood and improve the service for all of us? So it's a matter of a little community organization, and I think that that's somewhat how this has to evolve. And I see that Noli's here, and I know that he is laying fiber optic right now in the Gimple Hill area. And my question is, what would it take for us to get it to happen in the Apple Tree area? And there are solutions for it. So I turn this over to Noli because he knows a whale of a lot more about it than I do. But I understand the thinking that if we could get together as a micro community and realize in the effort to get fiber optic in the community, then a lot of the problems are solved. Right now, as I say, we're under a line of sight, but it could be better, and fiber optic, I think, is certainly the answer. So, Noli, you know more about this.
Yeah, and is this a good time? Is there any questions in particular that people want to answer?
Yeah. So Noli will speak, and then Debbie. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. So I was just thinking a couple weeks ago, sure would be nice to get some practice public speaking. So, here we go. So like I said a little bit earlier, this company has kind of started and evolved from first a solution to get our home and offices off of Gimple Hill Internet, and from there we went through thankfully some good relationships with friends and neighbors and family around. We had access, actually first with Excess Media, which kind of opened the doors to cutting some trees down and getting line of sight over to Planton, and from there expanding to neighborhoods and beyond. So we are currently starting to build out a fiber optic network. And that's kind of at our own, at the most reasonable pace as possible, with Aaron in the back here being our lead lineman a lot of the time, along with me. But that's kind of where we're growing from. And it's mostly around this core area of Gimple Hill and moving all the way over to Lorraine Highway as far south as Fox Hollow or the Circle V Ranch. But currently we're in this pocket, and a lot of the restrictions of our growth are due to, or that's not the best way to say it, but since we are primarily a line of sight system now, we are constantly looking for different places that we can use to serve other neighbors with internet.
And how would that be done?
Like in Amy's case, she's just a little bit down the street here on Macbeth, and way up on the hills there's some houses that can likely see back to Blanton, and from those houses we can get internet to them, and then back down to the valleys like Macbeth, and similar to how we've done out in Chesham, which Glenn here and a few other neighbors were started as a community of about 10 people that wanted our service, and with that community they were able to find a neighbor up on the hill that could see down into the valley to get the rest of them internet. Yeah, go ahead, Matt.
Who do you get your backhaul through?
So currently, thank you to Matt, through the Usenet and Emerald Broadband, we have fiber optic downtown Eugene, and that's kind of where everything starts. From downtown Eugene, we have different wireless links out to different areas.
So fiber optics is line of sight technology?
Fiber optic is a glass cable.
I know what fiber optics are, but I'm trying to relate that to this line of sight that you're talking about.
So the fiber optic is a cable technology, a physical cable, and that is run to the network of internet, and the line of sight comes at the very last mile typically, where it is just a pure line of sight technology.
So it goes from wired to wireless.
Yeah, it goes from wired to wireless.
It's connected to a big router, in other words.
Yeah, downtown Eugene.
What's the difference between you and Steven?
Currently size. We currently provide up to 25 megabits a second. Everything we do is without data caps or contracts, so it's very similar. We are getting into fiber optics now. Our service is much more local for the sake of what it is now. When you call me, you get to talk to me or soon to be Aaron. So that's kind of where we're at now with that.
In the back?
Yeah.
Yes. Has Lane Electric been open to fiber on the poles? Because I'm afraid I'm gonna die before we get the county.
Yeah, and thankfully through Debbie, which I haven't been able to meet yet, a little bit later, we have a agreement with Lane Electric to run fiber on the poles, and that is currently the way that we're expanding. Because it is much more cost effective wherever you can go aerial instead of underground. Go ahead, Amy.
So I know because we're down in the valley, at Body Bottom, literally bottom, we can't get line of sight, but we could relay to somebody up on Savara Road. So if you have neighbors in your neighborhood and you're down at the bottom, and people are up on the hill and they can pick up a line of sight, then please convey that to Noli, because then Noli can communicate to those of us that are in the bottom, and we can all work together to make that happen and connect that. And that's one of the ways I'd like to see it happen. In addition, I'd like to see fiber optic along the poles.
And especially like Matt was saying, the Twin Oaks is definitely a good opportunity. And till this point, I had heard many times that fiber was not accessible, and I thought I had pursued that far enough. I guess I had not talked to the right people. So with starting with the fiber network, and currently, so with fiber that we're running off of Gimble Hill, we are still using line of sight technology to start the fiber system because we can get to a place with very high data rates. We can get to a place that can serve other people branching out with fiber. And that in the future can easily be replaced with fiber. The wireless backhaul can be replaced by fiber once you have expanded the network far enough. That is also a very feasible way to get it in little pockets here and there, and eventually everything comes together.
There were 2 questions on the side. Yes.
I don't have any questions. My name is Cheryl Cutler, and I came as representing Citizens for Safe Technology and Families for Safe Leaders. I am very glad to hear that you're talking about fiber optics and wired internet. But I think before anyone considers wireless, any kind of communication, to look at those 2 websites.
Could you repeat the website?
Citizens for Safe Technology.
If I could really quick, there's a really big differentiation in wireless technology. The kind of technology that Noli and I use is less than an LED light bulb in terms of power. So it's very different than like a cell phone, for example. So I just want to make a very clear differentiation. If you hook up a power meter to the amount of power consumed, it's less than a single LED light bulb.
Yeah.
So there is a difference. But I appreciate you saying that.
But just for curiosity, you can look into it.
Thank you.
Well,
Gentleman here?
Hey, Noli, I wonder if you could kind of touch on the limitations for reliability on the site-to-site, because I'm not sure many people might, I mean, when I hear that, I consider, there's the old line of sight from satellite. What type of reliability prone issues would there be with site-to-site from house to house?
Trees. With the line of sight that we use, the main reliability issue is honestly with just electricity. The wireless itself is very reliable in a storm like this, or even 2-3 years ago now, where we went through that ice storm. I had a few access points up at that point, and probably 30 people online with them. And everything was caked with snow, and I woke up this morning, and on my monitoring system, everything is red. And you kind of go, what the heck is going on? But as you look around the neighborhood, everybody doesn't have power, but my stuff where I had it powered up was still online. And as people were powered back up, even though things were coated with ice, it is still very reliable to where you come back online and move on with life like it should be.
Thank you.
Yep.
Are there any regulations that prohibit utility companies from basically being the conduit for fiber optic and then they lease to the various agencies? Is that, like Lane Electric is they basically manage the utility poles?
I think that's something that Debbie can speak better about than me.
Would this be a good opportunity to have Debbie come up and speak, please? Thank you. Thank you, Noli.
It is really good to see everyone here, and I'm happy to be here and listen to your concerns. I also want to say thank you to Noli and Stephen for being here and doing what you can to get internet to people. As far as Lane Electric goes, what I'll say is we're in the process of educating ourselves on this whole broadband business. We're not as far as you are in terms of taking any action, or whether it's our place to take action or what our involvement is. I can't answer the question about pole attachments.
I'm not sure who you are. Can you explain who you are?
I'm Debbie Wilson, and I am the acting general manager of Lane Electric. So you all are our members. And what concerns you concerns us. So like I said, I'm happy to be here. As you've heard today, there's a lot of different ways to go about this. And so this is what we're educating ourselves on and what our role can be. And even if it's just as simple as allowing attachments, which we do in our poles for other companies to put up fiber, or for CenturyLink or Comcast or any of the other providers to enhance their systems, we certainly can do that part. Beyond that, we're happy to listen. Repeating myself, we're educating ourselves, and we're concerned about what concerns you. I'll try to answer any questions, but I don't really have much more to offer.
Right here?
My name's Paula Versace, I live on Fox Hollow.
Could you speak up, please?
Yeah, my name is Paula Versace, I live on Fox Hollow. When you talk about allowing other companies to run cable on your poles, will you negotiate with them in terms of licensing that other people will use those lines? Because as a public service, one would think that if they're using the public right-of-way and the public lines, they should be required at least to lease out to other companies. That's usually, that's what televisions have to do, some kind of public service, cell phones run off other people's companies, whatever, bands. It seems to me that if you're going to allow a company like Comcast or a company like CenturyLink to run lines, they should be required to lease their lines out to other companies.
Unfortunately, that is not something we can do. If they want to attach to our poles, then as long as things are properly engineered so it doesn't create a safety hazard, then they can attach to our poles. As far as making any sort of requirements that they provide internet access or make that available to others, we cannot do that.
Can the state or the county require them to do that?
I might be able to speak a little bit about that just from the perspective of a business owner, a lot smaller than CenturyLink or Comcast, but scaling it down, I think it's a lot of a question of who the money comes from, and if as a small business I'm putting my money into this to be able to continue to expand it, and most of the revenue is going to be able to go to other companies so that I can't continue to expand, it gets pretty unfeasible pretty quickly.
You know, really one thing is she doesn't do it for free, right? So you're paying to be on the poles, which helps underwrite her electric rates. So there is, public is getting something out of you doing what you're doing.
Yeah. But there is, as far as costing goes, if the public can pay for it, so somebody like me can be on those lines, I'd rather not have to build them out at that point.
But then you could also charge the other company as payback from that. I mean, isn't that what some of these companies do?
Maybe I could help out a little just because I'm familiar with the history of Comcast. So, as long as there's infrastructure, Comcast, CenturyLink, any ILEC would be governed by a franchise agreement. That franchise agreement would be with Lane County, and Lane County would have oversight over Comcast. Embedded within the franchise agreement would be the requirement to serve. And generally, those requirements are fairly limited in nature based on proximity to an existing plant. Quite frankly, pole attachments are pretty insignificant in the scheme of the financial picture. It's like, very de minimis. So that's not a barrier to getting you service. What is a barrier is the significance of putting it on a pole. So the franchise agreement will govern the requirements, just so you know.
We'll take two more questions.
I'm Mark Shapiro, and I live in Peaceful Valley. And there are two things I'd like to say with respect to Lane Electric. First of all, we are Lane Electric, at least that's what they tell us. So, as far as Wayne Electric giving access to put these things on their poles, we say to you, do it.
Happy to.
Now, I would like to bring to your attention, as I did to your predecessor who never responded to me on the issue.
Could you please stand, Mark?
Sure. AT&T back in 2017 developed a system to hop from pole to pole without connections at 1 gigabit per second. And they said their main problem is to find utilities to work with them to develop the system. So I sent Matt a message, I say, so, hey, utility, go work with them. Never got a response. I assume that's still available. And for 10 years, I've asked at your meetings that you get involved with internet. And it's always, oh, well, we don't know, we haven't learned anything yet. So now you tell us you're still learning. Well, after 10 years, it's time we get beyond learning, and as our utility company, Lane Electric, needs to get into this in whatever way they can to help us get internet, because you're our connection to the rest of the world.
So when you're talking about AT&T, I assume you're talking about 5G?
No, I'm talking about a specific, I have the thing here, I'll hand it to you. They have a specific thing they developed that hops from pole to pole. Instead of running a line, they put some mechanism on each pole, and it just jumps the signal from pole to pole instead of having to run cable.
So there's a couple of things with that. One is it depends on where on the pole. So if it's down below the electric lines, then they would just ask for an attachment, request an attachment like anyone else would, stringing fiber or cable or anything else. If it needs to be on top of the pole or above the electric lines, there are safety issues that are involved in that. And so that would require one of our linemen to put that on the top of the pole, which we could negotiate.
Oh, I say just talk to them, find out what it's all about.
And no one's, as far as I know, they won't talk to us either.
Well, he's saying you talked to them.
Well, AT&T is sitting here saying, we're looking for utilities who would like to work with us to do this, all right? So they're not gonna come to Lane Electric in the middle of nowhere and say, are you interested? But Lane Electric can go to AT&T and say, hey, this looks interesting, tell us about it.
I'd be happy to take your information. Thank you very much.
One more question, or two more, here?
So, we have property in Deadwood, and back in the late 80s, they trenched fiber optic in, and there's really fast DSL out there. It may not be the best for now, but it's in conjunction with peak.org and Pioneer Telephone Co-op, which is another cooperative utility, rural utility cooperative, and that's what we want to see what you guys do. We want to see you guys take the initiative. You know, we're paying pretty high rates for electricity, and there's no reason that Lane Electric can't partner up with somebody like Nobody, or like SX, or XS, excuse me, or with Peak, or whoever, and provide us service, because you guys already are bringing us electric. So it's a natural partnership. And we're saying as a member, we would like it to be a lot better. And I would prefer not to have AT&T, because I don't really like them. I prefer to go with somebody local, because I prefer to support local technologies and my neighbors. So I'll just put that out there, but that's what I know that it's possible. And I know that other cooperatives do that. Pioneer is a good example, and so is peak.org.
Okay, two
Douglas
more.
Fastnet too.
One here,
What?
one here.
Douglas Fastnet in Roseburg does that as well.
Is it true that our daughter lives off of Fox Hollow? And last year she got high-speed internet. She streams, she does everything, which she used to be like us, you can't do anything. I mean, we get emails and stuff, you can't, it's very, very slow. And anything with looking at YouTube, anything like that, it takes forever. So did you run that, Rose, or was it CenturyLink?
That would have to be CenturyLink. At this point, Lane Electric is not in, I'll say, in the internet business. We don't own fiber. And so we're not doing any of that.
Okay, so Century, which we're part of, okay, thanks.
One more question here. I'm a resident of Salisbury Lane and a member for 40-plus years. And I have two questions for you. When do you expect your education process to be to the point? What is your calendar for making a decision, yea or nay?
So we are in the process of actually more formally educating ourselves. So going beyond talking with different companies, which we have done. We've spoken with Wayne County about how do we do this, and we're taking a more formal approach to it because, as you've heard, there's a lot of different ways to do this. So we need to understand those ways. We need to understand the financial implications, because you all want us to make a wise decision, regardless of what we do. We want to be sure that financially it's the best way to go. So we are at this point, I can't say that we'll have a decision this year, but what I can tell you is we are getting more formal education and we are looking at this more intently this year.
I'm a little bit surprised and disappointed with your answer, because I have spent a number of hours in the waiting room at your headquarters reading the Rural Power magazine, the trade magazine for your utility. And I understand you're a member of that. I may have the title slightly wrong, but each issue has one or sometimes several articles about rural utilities who have successfully implemented internet service, either putting the equipment up themselves or contracting with it. And so I'm surprised that and disappointed that Lane Electric is still in the self-education process. And that was the reason for my very first question about, because I've been involved with utility work and we look at near, midterm, and distant timelines, and we set deadlines. And so when will you be ready to tell the Lane Electric customers when your decision will be made, yay or nay, about internet?
I cannot give you that answer. I can tell you we are looking at it very intently, but I want to be sure that we have enough time to properly explore it and make an informed decision. Because whatever we do, like has been heard here, there are a variety of ways to go about this, and should Lane Electric get actively involved, more actively than just allowing phone tappings, we need to make the best decision for all of you.
I know there are two questioners in the back. I'd like to ask you if you could hold for just a moment. We'd like to bring up Austin Ramirez from Lane County, and I want to thank Debbie for her comment. We're all learning, and this is going to be a first step that we're all going to be taking together.
I want to make a brief comment because
Yes,
it
sir.
relates to this topic. Very brief.
Yes.
To reinforce the point that the last gentleman made, I attended a Lane County board meeting, inquired on this topic a few years ago, and the story sounded about the same then as it does today. So I'd like to see a fire built under the group to actually make a date and actually do something.
The one comment that I'll make on that is that we're building a fire right here and now. And we're doing this together. We're going to be organized. We're going to be consistent and steady. We have good partnership with the county and government and business. And I don't feel like we're going to let up on this. So I want to only offer some encouragement. I can't give answers. I'm just trying to instigate the questions myself. But all of your participation and the work that you've done going to meetings and participating in this already has brought us here today.
Can I make a real quick point, just because of that? It is to Lane Electric. I'm a director at Lane Electric, and I've been there for 15 years.
Thank you.
I'm also...
And could you identify yourself?
My name is Chris Subert, and I'm a director of the Central District. I live up on South Lane.
Thank you.
And I'm also retired from Quest. I've been retired for about 10 years, but I was responsible for getting a lot of the DSL deployed in this area that's here. So the comment I will make about the last two comments that were made is that there are 900 electric co-ops in the United States. And they were formed because the for-profit electric companies wouldn't serve the area. So the new grassroots initiative now is broadband for rural America. And I can tell you, Lane Electric is in Oak Ridge, we're down in Cold Creek, we're out in Bonita. And if we held a meeting, there would be people at every location just like this. And the thing that we've got to do at Lane Electric is if we deploy something, and you read about all the deployments, you don't read about the ones that don't pencil out. So you only see the successful ones. And when you're asking Lane Electric to do something that's physically irresponsible, you're gonna pay for it. Your rates will pay for it. So I wanna just really commend Debbie and what we've done. We are coming up to speed, but today you heard 10 different technologies, 10 different people, 10 different providers. And when you want, Lane Electric wants to, we realize there's a value to having fiber to the home. We totally realize that. But we also realize that you can go to a district meeting down in Cold Creek, and I've got people coming that have duct tape wrapped around their slippers because they can't afford their electric bill. And if we did something that's gonna put that number in jeopardy. So I hear the frustration. I hear the frustration, but we've got to do things that make sense for our whole community, and we are running.
Can I ask Chris, did you sign up on the sign-in sheet?
I haven't, but I will.
We'd appreciate it. Anybody, please, again, I don't mean to interrupt, but we want to be able to stay in touch with everybody to keep your contact together, so please make sure that you sign up so we can do it.
And the last thing I'll say, because I'm sorry, I'm filibustering a little bit right now, but I'm on the board of the National Rural Technology Cooperative, which is a nationwide, it's a parent company to the internet side or the technology side. And there's a lot of things that are happening right now. And what you want is you want us to make really good decisions. I've already heard our rates are too high. And if we make a mistake on something else, your rates are gonna be really, really high. I mean, we have to do this the right way. And I'm telling you, across the country, it's a grassroots. This is the grassroots of the cooperative community, and you're all part of it. And we're gonna have a district meeting on the electric side coming up in April and May. Watch your calendar, come to that, you get a free dinner too. So that's really all I want to say.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. So again, I'm going to present Oscar Ramirez from Lane County, and then we'll take a few questions. We want to be aware of the time. We're getting close to going overtime. So everybody who can remain here and participate, please. We're all together right now. If you can be patient, we'll get through this together. Austin?
All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Austin Ramirez, and I'm the Community and Economic Development Officer at Lane County. I only serve the rural communities in our county, so I don't focus on any of the urban areas. I've been in this position about a year, and when I started, I realized how important rural broadband would be. And so in that time, we really dove in to figure out what our role is as the county. How can we incentivize broadband, whether it's wireless or fiber or any sort of means working with electric co-ops, whether it's electric, the private side, the public side. And in that time, we've learned a lot. To Lane Electric's credit, they have helped us in several projects. they are speaking to the right people about how to dive into broadband and into telecom essentially. It's not cheap. The co-ops that have been doing it for a while made significant investments more than a decade ago, and a lot of those co-ops went under because of those investments not paid. So while I would love for Wayne Electric to run fiber everywhere, to be honest, they are taking steps in the right direction to determine if that's feasible for them. And just a little tip, it's easy to compare neighborhoods that are closer to you that have better service, but in Oregon, it's very hard to find an apples to apples comparison when even the neighbor next to you may have line of sight and you may not. So just keep that in mind as we talk about these situations. It's really hard to make the same comparisons, which is why rural broadband is so difficult in Oregon. If you go to the Midwest where it's nice and flat, roads are straight, it's a lot cheaper to run fiber, either above ground or below ground, and you can have line of sight wireless internet go for miles. It's what makes Wayne County beautiful is also what makes broadband very expensive. But we're not giving up, and that's because we realize that broadband brings opportunity to rural communities like no other technology before. So you can have access to education and healthcare and a job and a social life. It is the great equalizer, to put it bluntly. And so what we're doing at the county, one of the big things we're doing is we're constantly meeting with all the private providers. We're working with the Tech Association of Oregon, with our state partners, with our federal partners, on anything we can do to bring rural broadband to Wayne County and expand upon the network that's here. One of the things that we're really excited to be working on is a comprehensive broadband plan for rural Wayne County, because what happens now is the federal government releases $600 million, and there's no cohesive plan to access that money, right? And so we want to sort of create the key to open that door up. Because what's holding us back, it's not that we don't know how to do rural broadband, it's that it's so intensive capital-wise. It costs so much money, so labor is very expensive. So that's one of the things we're working on, sort of a broader plan being put together. Within all that mix, we have sort of smaller projects spread out. So we're working with Access Media in a few neighborhoods to hopefully bring wireless. We're working with, we're talking to Douglas Fastnet in South Wayne County about doing fiber. We're really doing everything we can. And one of the biggest things we're also doing is advocating on the federal level for changes in policy that would make rural broadband more accessible. So for example, when the $600 million for the Reconnect program came out, we were all super excited. Well, they based the eligibility on census tracts, and census tracts not having adequate service, adequate speeds. That means, though, in one census tract, if one person has just good enough DSL, 10.1 speeds, that whole census tract is ineligible for funding. So you could have one house light up an area and make everyone else knowledgeable. It's not that person's fault, right? They just happen to be the one person with better speed. So we're talking about how do we increase the rural broadband definition from 10.1 speed to increase it to 25, which is the standard definition. So we're talking to them about that. We're also talking about how broadband is currently mapped. So the FCC's broadband map, they use data from providers. So if you think about it, you're not going to get the most accurate information. You're getting what's advertised. You're not getting what the speeds actually are. And these companies have, a reason to want to claim higher speeds than they're actually providing. So we're talking about how can we, self-report those numbers. Matt and I were just talking about sort of a grassroots project about people self-reporting their numbers at peak times and, showing who they're paying for service. And with competition, as was mentioned earlier, quality goes up and cost goes up. So we are doing a lot. We are talking with partners. Wayne Electric is doing things in the right direction. Access Media and people like Lane 5, they're doing everything they can to bring rural broadband. It's just a matter of time, right? And I think we're seeing it ramp up at a local level, at a state level, and at a federal level. So we're all optimistic that the time is coming when the rural areas will have the same opportunities through broadband as the urban and metro areas. So there's a lot to unpack, and this was a great conversation. I'm happy to answer any questions as much as I can, and if not, happy to follow up afterwards.
Any questions for us? In the back?
Yeah, it's not Austin, Valerie Kuhn, I just moved here a day ago.
Could you stand, please?
Okay.
I'm sorry.
So, two questions. The first is for Steve. What speed does your company offer?
Yeah, I was gonna tell Molly after, we're 25 also. also no contracts also.
Is that the up to 25 or is that?
Yeah, we don't believe in the advertised speed thing. So one of the reasons our speeds are only 25 is because that's what we expect people to get.
My second question is for maybe you guys who know, when I talked to Verizon recently, they said the 5G home is coming out to compete with Comcast for home-based internet. Is that something our community will be able to get?
I can, I would not count 5G as a solution for rural communities. 5G internet, correct me if I'm wrong, Stephen, or any of the other providers here, you need very dense fiber backbones, and you need a lot of receivers. And that's, you can't find fiber already, so we can't expect to rely on 5G in the rural community. And I think I've heard numbers like we need close to 10 times the amount of fiber, or receivers or something like that. Towers.
So you think about how the towers are already laid out in Eugene, and you times that by many, many times to be able to get 5G. Yeah.
Okay, so I hear everybody talking about these large companies and a whole lot of money, right? But I looked up some things, and it's called VSAT. And all you guys can look up on your phones what is VSAT. And it operates with an antenna. You can be an individual, and the more people that joins in with this particular VSAT, with this service, and you can point it to the south sky, and everybody can get it and use it in your own home. The more people use it, the cheaper it is. And it separates you from all of these companies that are talking about $600,000 and and the fiber optics that you're using. In the meanwhile, if you're waiting for the fiber optics, you can use the VSAT. And that's pretty much what everybody is doing, connecting and operating from one point to another to get internet. If you have it, if we have VSAT, if Amy was here with VSAT, right, she could point her antenna to the sky and get whatever speed she wants, right? Who uses this? Large corporations, ATM machines, schools. They use it out at sea, the military. A lot of these people use VSAT, right? Like that. And if you're using that, it's very minimal cost, and the more people that uses it, it's nothing to pay. And if you have a problem, you can always move the antenna around, and it's very, very lucrative. And I don't hear anybody talking about VSAT.
The main issues I've seen with satellite that a lot of people run into is the reliability with snow and the data caps that typically go along with it, and the latency.
Yes.
When you get into latency of over half a second, you start to not be able to do live streaming or video calling or texting.
Well, this the latency, and this was something lower than what you would get with all of the other companies. It was like 500 below 500. I have a paper that I gave to Jim, and it has that information on there about VSAT, and it gives all of that information, and the latency is very much less than what you would get on a normal system like that without having fiber optics and that. And I'm just saying, in the meantime, if you guys look up VSAT and what is VSAT, a lot of us could probably move in that direction for this community and support and set up our own little power, our own little receiving station and that kind of thing. And it's a very minimal cost.
Is that the letter V and then
VSAT, yes.
It's not VSAT, right?
No, VSAT.
I can say that real quick. So I'm not familiar with VSAT, but I am familiar with satellite technology. And the only caution with the satellite, as Molly mentioned, it's weather dependent, it's inconsistent. You also, if you think about the technology, right, you're sending it up to a satellite and then back down. So this double hop creates latency.
Okay, so you have that same type of latency, but it's supposed to be better
Hold
than
on.
dish.
Just let me finish.
Network.
So any of those, right,
Yeah.
with latency, you end up having a conversation that sounds like this. Damn. Can't use anything besides, your basic services. So it's an option, but if we're talking about broadband, which is more than just internet, just keep that in mind. But, I'm sure it's much more cost effective than fiber.
and the latency is less. That point you just made, it covers that, and you don't have that problem.
Satellite is, I mean, that's obviously, lots of people here probably use satellite. It's not a great option, but it's a great option. I mean, if it wasn't for satellite, you would have dial-up. So it's not the best solution for everybody, but it is a good solution if you've got nothing else. That doesn't mean that there aren't better options out there. That doesn't mean that the community shouldn't pull together to try to do something. But you're right, like if you're in a situation where you have dial-up or you're not able to use service, there are other options. Even if they're not great options, there are other options. The other thing about satellite is the weather may be bad here, but if the connection point is in Houston and they have a thunderstorm, then you may have a great weather system, but that causes some issues. The satellite companies have been doing a lot to improve their technology. I'm very, very thankful for them, to be honest. Transcontinental flights, like, hey, we've got Wi-Fi now. So they're a really, really good solution. You should think about it, but it is not great service. Many of us know that. We've used it. So I do appreciate you saying that. I've never heard of the company that you're talking about. I've heard of Viasat. I've heard of Exceed.
Yeah.
DishNet uses both Viasat and Exceed. I've not heard of VSAT.
Yeah, I know it would interfere with what you're trying to do.
Hey, competition. I'm all about competition. Like, honestly, I mean, I support Lane Fi. I support Emerald Broadband. I support Douglas Fastnet. I don't have like $1 billion, and that's probably what it would take to provide service to 50% of Lane County. So I'm very thankful that all of these providers are here because we all take a little bite of the apple. And we all drive prices down, and we all increase speeds together, so that's a good thing, and Viasat is one of those solutions. So I'm appreciative of that.
If I can give you one last note, it's just that I don't think you realize how lucky you are to have lane flight access here. Because although they are, companies and they do need to make a profit, very few providers place a higher priority on community well-being and engagement. And so, listen to what they have to say with an open mind and understand that they're coming at it from the right perspective, and that they are trying to.
This gentleman here?
Yeah. I don't get called on very often, sorry. There's a lot of experts in here, I don't know what the answer is, but can a cell tower be used to relay fiber to various places? Can you actually use cell towers for that?
Yes. We have a lot of them. We have like 150 tower sites that we distribute service from. Building a site is very expensive. We just did one and it was $110,000 for one site. And that doesn't include anything being put on it or fiber going to it or any of that. So that's a yes, but it's an expensive proposition. And most of the probably for you too, I'd imagine, we're just talking to somebody who's got a house and putting some antennas on their house and spray painting them so they match the color of the side of the house and saying like, will you work with us? Can we put a little box here? Look at all these houses you can see, or maybe you can see 5 of them. So I think there's a really wide gap between what we need. Would a cell tower be nice? Yes, but for us, it's hardly ever economically feasible.
The reason I ask is because Verizon is licensed to do a cell tower about half a mile down the road from here. And I think theoretically it's over 100 feet tall.
Oftentimes they tell us no, too. They say,
that was my question.
Yeah, they'll say
They would allow it.
Yeah, a lot of times either they build the tower just for them, exclusive use, or they will lease from somebody, build their own tower, and they say, we don't want to compete with any carrier. It's kind of this, we've all been having this story, right? And unfortunately, they'll upgrade to 4G, they'll run fiber to that tower, so you'll see people running fiber, but that fiber is not built to connect any of the homes they pass because all of the money is at the tower site. So that, this AT&T fiber line that we all see, that's to go serve cell towers.
Yeah.
That's not to serve other people.
Thank you.
Any other questions for us?
Is the county or Lane Electric, or is there any timelines, any suggested horizons, any milestone dates that have been discussed that you could share with us to get an idea of what all of us are here to determine is how much longer are we going to work off of either satellite or jetpacks or, you know, because if people, obviously everybody's relying on internet service. So what's on the horizon in terms of timelines?
It's a great question.
So I can tell you the regional broadband plan that I talked about, which would help access federal funds across the county. We're looking to have that done in a year, right? And that's if everything goes according to plan, which to be honest doesn't always. And a lot of these projects, and I'm not saying this as a cop-out, there are so many factors that go into making a project work throughout the entire project, not just in the beginning, that it's pretty common to see delays. So, you know, in Benita, for example, they were doing a middle mile connection. Well, it turns out there's, you know, a bunch of right-of-way issues with Department of Fish and Wildlife, and there's tree concerns, and dust, and roadway. And another example Steve and I talked about recently, the soil composition turned out to, you know, make the project not pencil out. And so it's very hard to give a definite answer. We are constantly working on it. It's almost all that I work on at the county. While I'm one person, there are several of us working on it across the state and country, to be honest, that are really hacking away at this issue and trying to make it work.
Any other questions for Austin? Well, thank you. Okay, we're at 3:45 now, so we're 15 minutes over, but I don't think that we've really deeply scratched into the question. I'd like to ask if anyone who has signed up and has some comment or input that they'd like to share, this would be a good time to do that. I want to make sure that everybody feels like in this first conversation they've been heard and that they've had an opportunity to contribute. Yes, yes, sir. And could you identify yourself?
My name's Ron Cooper, and I live halfway between Sardis Ferry and Peaceful Valley Lane here on the Range Highway. And when I first came here 8 years ago, CenturyLink had a line, and we bought the house because there was internet. And during the day, it was 1.5 megabits. And at night, over the next 4 years, 1.5 megabits dropped to 1, and then by the time we came away from CenturyLink, it was down to 50 megabits at night, especially on Sundays. I talked to their engineers, and they said, oh, by the way, we have another line, another loop. And there are only 2 people on it. They actually ran parallel with the first loop, so I go on to that. And the next 4 years, have passed, it's back down to 100 megabits a second. And at that point, I found out about Excess Media, and they have a satellite on Blackberry Hill. And fortunately, I can see it beautifully, and I get 25 megabits a second. I've been a fiber optics engineer in both research and development for my whole life. And one of the problems that the companies faced, because I was involved in a project on the East Coast about trying to put in a network, was they had a meeting just like this. In fact, there were 400 people in the meeting, and everyone said yes, they would sign on to this network, because the network people have to figure out, is this cost effective? And the result was, they put up the poles, put up the fiber, less than 25% of the people signed on. And it was like that for several years. In other words, the company was losing money on this particular project, even though they thought they had a great big room full of people. And it's very, very hard once push comes to shove and they find out it's going to cost them $50 a month or $60 a month. Some people balk at the price and just say, no, I can't do it. And that was the experience, mind you, it was 10 years ago. I think looking at this, I'm an old guy and I've read a lot about American history because obviously I came here years ago. But if you think about rural electrification, they had exactly the same problem in the early 30s that you guys have now, that we have now. You have various companies providing electricity for a local town, but because it wasn't cost effective, it didn't go outside the town, and we're in exactly that same position now. And it took an act of government to come up with electrification scheme to force companies to bring electric power to the outside areas. Now, I thought 3 years ago, I heard Obama say something about doing something similar. And of course, it has died. From an engineering point of view, the fastest way to get internet to you, I believe, and it will require some work with excess media, is to see if they can do, just like you talked about from the telephone poles, a hop-to-hop between houses. I'm certain that there have got to be some houses that can, while other houses beyond can't see Blackberry Hill, there's a house there that can, and can focus towards other houses that can't see Blackberry Hill. Do the hop. The only disadvantage will be that latency will increase as you go from one thing to another. One of the problems about being on the pole is every time you go through a piece of electronics, it introduces delays. And I can't imagine what it would be like after about a couple of dozen relay systems. Like weather would have a tremendous effect on it. It would be very unreliable service if you're going to hop from system to system. So I don't know if Maine Electric has a fiber optics expert on its board. Does it have a fiber? I think therefore, I think I'm going to volunteer.
We've heard quite a lot, and we've just begun. I think, once again, I want to ask, has everyone had an opportunity to share their perspective or ask a question of anybody else in the room, so that we can be sure that we've had, yes, sir?
What systems people use for internet before I got here, just a little bit after starting, you asked that question, what they all use.
For everybody that's spoken, it sounds like we've shared, there's a hodgepodge of, for me, I've got Verizon hotspot on my iPhone, and it is challenging at best, especially in difficult weather.
Well, how many people, we've been there for 25 years right over here on Lorraine, how many people use satellite internet? Just satellite. Like, anybody on Wild Blue? Just curious. How many people use your hotspot on your phone for internet? And how many use dial-up? And then how many have no internet whatsoever at all? Like zero. So everybody's.
What about CenturyLink?
So how many have CenturyLink or
Verizon?
Verizon, yeah, actual cable. Yeah. I was just curious because we've done it all. We did Hughes, Wild Blue, we did landline, and now we use our hotspot.
How about Lane 5?
Oh yeah, how many use? Yeah, here you go. I was just curious.
Yeah.
They do make sense.
Yeah, access.
Again, your name, sir? Ronald Cooper. Mr. Cooper's perspective is really well-founded. It is going to take a series of decisions, choices, particularly coming from government, and being able to circle the wagons and to get people all involved and focused on the end goal, which I think we all agree on. Yes?
I'm Sue Thompson. I tried down the road here with someone who lives on Flow Road, who's also experiencing this issue. I'm wondering, I'm hearing most people here are Fox Hollow, Peaceful Valley, I'm off Chisholm, and all of this. Would it be helpful, do you think, if we tried to connect to the Crow area, the Bonita area, some of the other smaller communities, Grange, equivalents around Lane County, to have them get their voices together and we get our voices together, and then we can all come in and, work with Lane County and to help come up with, our Lane Electric or whomever, to come up with solutions.
Organizers.
Yeah, and again, this is why we're all here together today, because it does mean organizing together and being patient and being diligent and being able to make progress steady and communicate what we're learning and what we're experiencing amongst each other in order to accomplish the goal. What I can say is this is a first step, this Facebook page. If we have your emails, we can continue sending you information. Obviously, we need to schedule a second meeting and conversation here. And I think developing a working group that continues to follow up with agencies, individuals, and have people who have strong opinions, voices, who have had perspective on this issue and put time in already to continue, please, being part of this conversation so that we don't lose your voice and your experience. And, yes, Billy?
Hi, my name is Billy Lutz, and I did look up this information on VSAT, and I would like to know if there's people here that would like to look into that, because each one of us can get us an antenna and pop it around. I'm not trying to put down any of the other companies or anything like that. I just know that this satellite particular system is very acceptable and very easy to use for my information. So if we would like to look into that until we can get this cable in, until we can get all of these things set up, I think using this VSAT system, they talk about, yeah, well, you got a problem because of things like Dish and companies like that. It's better than Dish. It's better than a lot of the other companies that we pay money for, and they cut down on your rate of receiving your internet and that kind of thing. So if there's anybody here that want to look into VSAT and how we can set up our own system around, I would like to know. And my name is on the paper there, and we'll probably get my email, Billy Elias, and it'll probably be at madreamtime.com, at gmail.com, madreamtime@gmail.com, right? And you could get in touch with me about that.
Thank you. Yes. Yes, of course.
On the VSAT, one of the problems is it's like all the other satellite systems, is that they're very unreliable and they have a terrible reputation.
VSAT, yes.
Have you done speed tests on your satellite over the course of the day and at night? I mean,
Oh yes, with mine, I'm using Dish, and it's just no good. Yeah. So I'm reading all of this information about VSAT and how much better it is than Dish and some of the other companies.
You're not on it at the moment?
No, not at the moment. No. So I'm just wondering if there are some people that want to look into this, and if we could, you know, I thought the more people that involve themselves in setting up antennas, the easier and the more reliable it is to use, like that. So.
Well, thank you, Bill. Thank you. Obviously.
I was gonna say, I personally aligned antennas for both HughesNet and Viasat back when I was a field tech, and it is not easy. Especially, so they switched technologies about 2 years ago to the KU band, which is supposed to make speeds faster. It's kind of right around the change when Wild Blue became Exceed. Peaking those antennas in is really, really hard. So I just want to say, I'm not challenging what you're saying, but hearing about a technology or a solution that is fast, low latency, affordable, and you can peak in yourself.
Thank you, Matt.
Knowing what I know, just it makes it's hard for me to believe. I just want to say, I feel like I have a responsibility to say that.
Right. You know, we're all cobbling together our access to the internet in different ways. And so everything from CenturyLink and Excess and Lane and VSAT and other, all of these are going to be half steps that we all are struggling with. But we're obviously committed to getting there. And the fact that we have Heather, Debbie, Matt, who's visited, Courtney, who's come, others from government, Austin, thank you so much for your input, and for all the other individuals who have spoken and participated. We're so grateful. We're not going to let go of this. It's clear. And if you can, again, continue to participate, yes?
Jim, can we do one of the last bullet points on the meeting minutes was to pick a date?
Yes.
So maybe in 90 to 120 days, we could sit down and see if any progress or if any individuals want to take part. And,
I think that's
and
perfect.
jump in the middle of this and help precipitate all of us getting what we need.
I think that that's perfect and on point. You know, rather than 90 days, I'd like to look at in 2 months that we have
60, sure.
another conversation and meeting. In the meantime, please know that we're gonna all be communicating amongst each other, using this if you can. I understand, again, I'm sorry, Facebook, all the rest of it. But if you can, this is an accessible group that everybody can participate. Just join in. I didn't make it completely open because I wanted to preserve people's privacy or respect or access. As this gentleman is doing here, if you want to put your PIN on the board, if you don't see that your home is listed, put it in the closest access point so we can show a buildup of different PINs at a different road. But it's going to take continuing to follow up together. Yes?
I just want to be able to, at some point, be able to stream my memorial service. Okay, that gives you about 20 damn years to get the damn thing done. Jesus.
Okay, well, let's start at it this way, or let's conclude. So if we look to, in 2 months' time, let's see what the same date of the 9th, so it's February, March, April 9th. Now, we heard that there was going to be an April meeting.
She said the third Tuesday of the month is April.
The third Tuesday of the month. Should we, please, for just a moment, folks, should we look to having another Saturday meeting? Is that the best for everyone? Okay, so, and later in the day? Of course, but the challenge is we want to make it accessible to the most number of people and keep it safe to be able to leave. So what we'll do is we'll pick, who can tell me what the date is in April that's on that Saturday?
13? 6 or 13 for the first
13, so April 13.